Hello, good afternoon, welcome, welcome. It is pie day. So today we are going to make a strawberry pie, and it has like a meringue marshmallow topping on it that is so good. And then we're also going to make a mixed berry pie. We're going to make the crust, and I have all kinds of stuff out here for us to do all kinds of things today. So we're going to make the crust, we'll go through that, and then from there, then we'll make the pies and then have everything ready to go. So that is our plan for today. Glad to have everyone here. My name is Jennifer. I'm the owner here at Make It Sweet, and I'm glad to have you joining us. And so what we're going to do, we're going to start off with making our pie dough. So this is a pie dough recipe that's been on our website for quite a while. It's made in a food processor. You can actually make this just by hand and use like a pastry blender and be able to do that. It works absolutely, but the food processor makes it so much faster, so much easier, and it comes together like that. And so we're all ready to go with it. So what I have my flour, and Magda has already weighed this out for me. So we use a scale and weigh it out just because that way it's so much more accurate. But if you don't have a scale, it's 3 cups of flour. And this is just standard all-purpose flour. And so I'm going to go ahead and add that in here. There we go. I have sugar that's going to go in here, and then some salt. So basically all of your dry ingredients. That's what's in here to start with. And I always like to put this on. All right. Food processors are giving me it. There we go. Whew, there we go. All right. It needs to be plugged in. Amazing how that works. Here we go. Technology. Whew, now I have power. All right, there we go. So just a couple of pulses. And what that does, it mixes up the sugar and the salt in here with the flour. So you're not going to have any part of the flour that's going to be just the not have all the salt or anything that's in there. And then I'm going to take my butter, and I just pulled this out of the refrigerator right before we went on. So it's still very cold, and I've cut it into small cubes. So cubes about this size. So these are what, like 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch, something like that. It doesn't have to be exact or perfect, but you do want small sizes, because if I put my whole hunk of butter in here, it's just not going to process in very well. And now what I want to do, I'm going to do this in pulses until the flour has basically coated all the butter and the butter's chopped up into small pieces. So it's going to take several pulses to get there. I'll stop it along the way. And so look in here, you can see that you can still see kind of bigger pieces of butter. I don't really want to have big pieces of butter. Don't stick your fingers in a food processor like this. So do as I say, not as I do. But see how it has like some big pieces? And I really don't want that, so I know I need to process it a little bit more. So I want it to end up looking kind of like sand. All right, there, that looks much better. And so I don't see any big pieces of butter in there. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then most recipes for pie crust, right, then call for you to do kind of this step like what we just did. and then they call for you to add water to it. So when you add water to a pie crust, that's what can make it so that it's not quite as tender. We're actually using sour cream. It's still going to add the moisture that I need to have this all come together, but it's going to add flavor, and it's not water, so it's not going to make a tougher crust. This is going to be a very, very tender, flaky crust. There we go. All right. And so now I'm going to pulse this until it comes together in a ball. So it's going to take several big long pulses. You'll start hearing the food processor kind of going into like, oh, I'm working really hard mode. I promise it does come together. You can see it on the side. You can see how it's starting to come together in the dough. So it's not going to be long. Seeing it starting to move as like one big mass. See, that's what I was talking about. That's where the food processor started sounding different, like it's having to work a little bit harder. And it's almost there. Couple more pulses. All right, there we go. Look at that. So it's all together like a ball. I'm going to be able to turn this out onto the table, be able to knead it together a little bit. We're going to wrap this in some plastic and then be able to put it into the refrigerator. Would you grab some plastic wrap? All right, let me move some stuff out of the way here. All right, so this is enough pie crust for two 12-inch pies. So 12-inch pies are like really big. I'm only making like 8-inch pies today. So this is technically enough for 3 of them. Or you can make it where it's 2 and your lattice. You have lots of different options with it. So what we're making today is going to be our strawberry pie. That's going to be a blind bake. And then we're making our lattice. And so I have plenty of pie crust to make all of my pies. I actually have some already made, or Magda has some already made. And so I will be using that's already made. You do want to put this in the refrigerator for a little while because the flour just needs to hydrate with all the moisture that's in here and just let it work. It's just going to make it so much easier. Plus the butter has warmed up so much since it was through the food processor that it's just going to be harder and harder to roll it out. So it's much easier to bring this together just like this. So see how it comes together so easily, like a whole mass like this. There we go. And now I'm just going to cut this into sections. If you want to be super precise, what you can do is weigh this whole amount and then divide it by 3 and then know the exact weight for each piece. I don't need to be that precise. We can eyeball it. All right. I always like to kind of challenge myself and do this and then put it on a scale and see if I'm pretty close or not. Not always pretty close. All right, wrap this. So this is going to get wrapped in plastic. I just take it, make it into a disc, It'll just make it easier when we go to roll it out to have it already in kind of that disc shape. There we go. One more. This one looks like this might be the small one. This might be the lattice top. All right, there we go. Let me wrap this in plastic. So each of these you'll end up just taking and wrapping in plastic and store it in the refrigerator. So about half an hour at least in the refrigerator before you start to roll it out. And then from there, if you want to, you can make your pie crust today and actually make your pies tomorrow or up to 5 days. This could be in the fridge for 5 days. Any longer than that, and put it in the freezer. And it freezes beautifully. So if you need to stick this in the freezer, or if you just have so much pie crust and you're not going to be making all these pies, then go ahead and put it in the freezer, and that way you can use it for something else in the future. So it doesn't have to be that you make all of these right away. Let me wrap this last one. There we go. And then through the magic of television or Facebook, we have some already done. So I'll be able to work with that. All right, put those to the side. Let me just clean this up just a little bit. All right. If you want to take the food processor out of the way, you could do that. All these utensils here, I was getting ready for class and I was like, oh my gosh, look, I have like every big appliance that we have for the classroom. I have my mixer, I have the induction burner here, I had the food processor, we have all kinds of stuff out. The only thing I needed was the griddle. Had we pulled out the griddle, we would have had it all. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to just show you one of the crusts. I'm going to roll the salapi, and that would be plenty of crust for it. We want to roll it so that it's about 1/4 of an inch thick is what we're going for with this. And so when it's been in the refrigerator, I actually like to take it out of the refrigerator and let it warm up just a little bit. Because if you try to roll it just straight from the fridge, it's too hard. So the butter has solidified so much, it makes it really, really hard to roll. So I like to let it sit out for a little bit. So that is plenty. We don't have to worry about adding more butter or anything to grease our pan with. So I just take some flour and make sure I have a nice little sprinkle of flour on my table. Put the dough here. I'm going to put a little sprinkle of flour right on top. And now I'm going to roll. And so the warmer that it is, kind of the easier it is to roll. But also it can get too warm that makes it really hard to move it around. So notice how easy that was for me to pick it up. This table is really tall. I need a step stool on here to get some leverage. All right. There we go. Anytime it's starting to feel a little sticky on the table, then a little bit more on there. And notice how I keep moving it around. What that's going to do, that's going to make it so that it's going to be more of a round shape than being like a weird like oblong or other kind of shape with it. And notice it's just little sprinkles of flour that I'm putting on here. And I'm not trying to get all of my width, all of my length just in one roll. Just keep moving it around. All right. There we go. And I think I'm right there. Yep, so I'm right at like 1/4 of an inch, which is perfect, just what I'm looking for. And then I want to make sure that when I set my pie tin on here, that I have at least 1 inch all the way around, which I do. And take my pizza cutter, go around. It doesn't have to be perfect at the edge. Don't worry about that part. You'll see what we're going to do with this. It gets turned underneath anyway. But you do want to make sure that you have about 1 inch all the way around. So I like to take these little pieces, put them onto a sheet pan, put some, I like to do salt and pepper, but you could put cinnamon and sugar on, that would be fine. Just make a little snack with them. So rather than re-rolling or anything, because it's never quite as good re-rolled. All right, looks like I could use just a little bit more to make this really round. And now I'm going to use my rolling pin to my advantage. Put your rolling pin on here and then just roll up. Pick this up and notice what I've done. Randy will go to the overhead shot. There we go. So what I've done, I've made sure that the edge is really sticking over my pan here and that I have it even on each side. There we go. And now I can take this and I'm just going to bring it all the way in. All right. And I just like a lot of crust on my pies. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to fold this all the way around, fold it under. And I have one little area here that's like not quite as much. So I can take this, put this inside here, and no one will know that that was a little extra that got added in. All right. So now that I have it rolled over, now I can make it kind of pretty. And so I like to do the finger and the 2 fingers. So just press in. So I just have my thumb and my index finger on one hand, pressing against my index finger on the other hand. All right. And so like for our berry pie, then this is ready to go. And this is what I'm going to actually end up using for our berry pie. For the strawberry pie, then that one needs to be what's called blind baked. When you're blind baking, what you want to do is you want to take a fork and you want to prick this in the bottom so that it's not going to bubble up. And then you're going to take some foil. And I always like these are like those sheets, you know, that they use when they color your hair, or like in food service kind of things. So I like these because they're really thin. You could use just like regular foil, like if you buy like the grocery store brand, then it ends up being fairly thin too. So when you're blind baking, you put foil so that it's covering. Doesn't matter whether it's shiny or flat side up, doesn't make a difference. And then there are things that you can buy that are called pie weights. You can use that. I sell all of those pie weights, but let me show you what I actually use. So we have a big bucket here, and this bucket has beans in it. So these beans have been baked and baked and baked and baked. So many times that when you open it up, you really get that smell of beans from the oven. So just fill it up. Make sure it's nice and full. There we go. This goes into your preheated oven and then bakes until it's golden. So most of the time, what you're going to end up having to do is bake it most of the way. So like after it's about 3/4 through. So this ended up taking about 25 minutes in our oven. At home, it would end up taking about 30 minutes in a non-convection oven. So after about 20 minutes, go ahead and check it. And if the crust is golden on the edge, then what you would want to do is pull the beans away and then just let it continue baking, because generally the bottom does not bake as evenly as the edges do. And so go ahead and do that. All right, I am not going to blind bake this because I already have one blind baked. So this is the one that I'm going to use for my berry pie. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I actually like to use beans rather than rice. I know I've seen a lot of people use rice for this. Both are like inexpensive ingredients, and so that's why they're used for this, and ingredients that can go into the oven. But beans just make it easier, because if I dropped a few beans in here, I could pick them up really easily. Where if I was clumsy and dropped a bunch of rice in here, that would take a lot longer to pick out all the grains of rice. So it makes it a little bit easier. All right. Let me move some stuff around, and then I'm going to first make I'm going to roll out for my lattice for my berry pie. All right, I have the little one. So again, just some flour down, so just a sprinkle. And this I want to be kind of a little bit more of like a rectangle. I'm just going to cut strips out of this. So I don't want it to be, I'm not going to try to make this one round. I'm going to try to make this one a little bit more of a rectangle. That'll make cutting my strips even easier. All right. So the berries that we're using a combination of strawberries and blackberries and raspberries. You could use blueberries in here. You could use pretty much any combination you want to. It's just such a nice fresh pie, especially this time of year when you can get such good berries. Go pick your own even. We did that last year. It was really fun. We went and picked strawberry. Well, we got blackberries too. Thorns and all in my hands. All right. There we go. So about that same thickness. So about 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more flour down here, just so that it's not going to stick. Last thing you want is go to all the trouble of doing this all and then have it stuck to your table, right? And I know that I have enough length for all of my pieces, because I can kind of measure with my rolling pin and measure with my pie and know that I have plenty of length here. So I want to cut about 8 pieces out of here. So the easiest way is to cut in half first, and then each of these in half. So I have 4. I'm going to go ahead and cut my extra off the end here. There we go, even it out a little bit. And now I'm going to cut each one of these in half. And that way I'll have my 8 pieces. It's rolling up on my cutter there. You could use like a fancy fluted one. I think Magda pulled out the fancy fluted one for me. She washed it. It's back on the drying rack, I bet. Oh well. We can make it plain. It's okay. All right, so I have my pieces here. I'm just going to set these to the side while I get my berries ready to go. Look at that. All right. I'll put this one on the side. All right, so our berries are going to be, as I said, a combination of blackberries, strawberries, raspberries. Look at these blackberries. They are huge and beautiful. That looks great. So the things that I have that are going to go in here. So this is cornstarch and flour, some sugar, a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg. And so that all goes in here, and this all goes together. I don't have any lemon juice or lemon zest. I didn't have a lemon. I forgot to put it on the list for Randy, and I wasn't going to send him out to the grocery store just for that. So it's fine. Fine without. If you don't have a lemon, you can still make this. But while you're getting the berries, don't forget the lemon, because it does make it really nice. So I'm just going to stir this, and what this does, so the cornstarch and flour mixture will thicken, and it will end up being like a sauce with the berries. So you're not going to end up with it being so liquidy when you go to slice this and cut it. And so it ends up like coating it. You can see that it has coated the berries very well. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla bean paste in here, just because. Mix that in, it'll be delicious. I don't think you can ever go wrong with vanilla bean paste in something. And especially with berries, and that little bit of nutmeg in there gives that little hint of spice. The same with the cinnamon in there. It's not so that it really tastes like it's cinnamon in here. It just gives that little spice kind of flavor. All right. I need to slice this strawberry a little bit, so I'm going to put that one to the side. That was a whole one. And I'm going to take this and I'm just going to mound this up in my shell here. So you need like 5 to 6 cups of berries in here. Even for the small pie like this, you still need quite a bit of berries. Because these are even going to, as they bake, they're going to bake down. There we go. All right. I'll use almost all of this. And I'm even kind of pressing it in a little bit so that it's a little bit more compact in here, not a bunch of air in there, a little bit more. All right. I think that looks good. There we go. Few extra berries, but not much. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my lattice. And so when you're doing this, what you want to do is think of it in fourths, because we're going to do 4 pieces. So I'm just going to kind of lay out my first 4. 2. Let's go a little skinnier. And I'll use this small one here on the end. See, I said no one would ever know. All right, we're going to attach this end of them. And so I'm going to use some egg wash, and I'm going to attach the end. And then this is going to be like, kind of like braiding hair. All right, we're gonna be lifting this and moving it. I'm going to come back and pretty this up. I just want to kind of get it so that it's in place. So this is egg wash. This is a combination of egg and water. And then when I'm adding my next one, what I want to do is I want to lift up on 2 of my pieces and put this one on. All right, there we go. Look at that. It's actually like lattice. And now when I want to add the next one, I'm going to lift up on the 2 others. So it looks much more complicated than it is, right? It's not hard to do. This is just something, it takes a little bit of time. Now I'm back to the first two that I had lifted up. And now the last ones. All right, look at that. We have our lattice all ready to go. So now I can take like my pizza cutter or a small knife, and I'm just cutting off all the extra. So we had plenty of our lattice on here. There we go. All right. And now with this, I'm going to take my egg wash and I'm just going to use this on each of my edges just a little bit. It'll help it to just kind of stick together. We're going to remake that little crimping motion that we did before. But this will help it to kind of stick together even a little bit more. There we go. On the edge here, 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 here. All right, so now come back, and wherever you had done this, just kind of get this to come back together. So kind of remake your edge. There are some lattice pies where you cut it off on the inside. I don't know, I like as much pie crust on a pie as possible, so I like the lattice to come all the way to the edge. So there we go. That's the lattice and our pie. And then I'm going to take some egg wash and I'm going to go right over the top here. This pie takes a while to bake. You're not going to see the finished version of it because we're going to be done before this is done. But it goes into a 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes, and then turn down the temperature to about 350, and it will take about another 30 minutes. So check it after 20, see how golden it is, but then chances are it's going to take another 30 minutes.
Someone is asking if you have a substitute for egg wash that you can use on top.
You could use just some milk. Yeah, some whole milk or skim milk, whatever kind of milk you have at home, that would absolutely be fine. So if you don't have eggs at home or not wanting to use an egg for this, use some milk on top. That would be fine. All right, so this is just some crystal sugar that I'm putting on top. I love when the pie crust gets really crusty and golden, and then has the sugar on top. It just ends up making it so that it's really crunchy right on top. So that's my favorite with it. So there we go. We have our mixed berry pie. That strawberry was wanting to peek out there. All right, this will end up going into the oven. And I want to start making our filling for our strawberry pie. All right, let me clean this up a little bit. Get all my other appliances ready to go here. All right, so for this one, you'll need either a hand mixer or a KitchenAid style mixer for this, because you have to whip the egg whites all the way so that they're stiff peaks, and then even after you've made your syrup, you're going to be adding your syrup into those egg whites, and then it's going to continue whipping, and so it just it makes it much easier with a KitchenAid style mixer or with a hand mixer rather than, I can't imagine trying to do this by hand. All right, so I'm gonna have two things going at once here. So this recipe is my grandmother's recipe, and I just remember going and visiting her, and she would make this delicious pie that's a blind baked crust, and so it's blind baked, and yeah, I have it like got a little hole in there. Oh well, it'll be fine. I'm just going to put my strawberries in here, and notice these are whole. What we've done is just cut the tops off of the strawberries, so wash them and then cut the tops off. And then I'm just going to arrange them in here. You don't want them to be soaking wet. So if they are wet, you want to take your towel and dry them off. These were washed quite a while ago, so I'm good. I just kind of arrange it with small ones, and so that the whole thing is filled. All right, so that's ready to go. I'm just going to put that to the side. And then I'm going to start with my syrup. So in here I have Karo syrup. So it's half a cup of Karo syrup and then water. And so it's 1/3 cup of water that's in here. And then it's 1 cup of sugar. We're going to bring this to a boil. Wrong side. We're going to bring this to a boil. So whenever you're doing this with syrup like this, always make sure that like once you pour your sugar in, that you stir it around a little bit, because you don't want the sugar to have settled down to the bottom. That can burn a lot faster before the rest of it. And so you want to be careful with that. I'm going to put a thermometer on here. And so my grandmother never used a thermometer. So this was till it spins a thread. Is the way her recipe was written, till it spins a thread. And so that ends up being like right at like 240 is kind of the temperature you're going for. Whew, I can't see this one is not one that I can read. All right, we'll find another thermometer for that. In the meantime, I'm going to take 3 egg whites and I'm going to whip these. And so this is to stiff peaks. So put your bowl on, press it in. You want to use the whip attachment with it. Will you grab me a whip? Thank you, Magda, for doing all the setting off. Will you grab with the whisk? You're going to think that this is going to go super fast because you're going to get to 212 degrees like really, really quickly, but then it's going to take time to get up to temperature. And so I have this lifted. I'm going to turn this on, let this start going. There we go. Don't look at it. It was not wanting to cooperate. All right, so I'm already up to 158 degrees. You can see it's starting to bubble just a little bit. And so what's going to happen? This is going to get to 240 degrees. We're going to pour this into our whipped egg whites. And then we're going to do it while it's going very slowly. and then we're going to bring the temperature back up, and basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making like marshmallows, like a meringue, and that's what goes then on top. And then from there it just goes on top of your berries, and then the only other thing that you do is you put it under your broiler for just a few minutes and watch it the entire time, because sugar can like turn like that really, really quickly. So watch it and then make sure that you're just getting it just barely browned. If you don't have a broiler, like what we don't have a broiler here, then we're just going to use a torch, and we're going to torch it just a little bit and be able to brown it. All right, so I'm going to be watching my eggs and see if I need to kind of slow this down so that I'm waiting for our temperature on here. So it's kind of like that. You have to stand here. You have to watch it all. You have to be in the moment with this stuff. All right. So don't walk away when you have sugar boiling like this. Don't walk away when you have your egg whites going. You can come back and they're going to be like dry and all clumped together and not going to be what's going to be nice in our meringue. Magda's throwing things at me. Is it filled? Can you? Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm at 213. It's going to take a little bit to get up to my 240-ish, and I'm going to show you like what it looks like when you spin a thread, what that looks like. My egg whites are going well, so I'm actually going to slow this down just a little bit. Let it kind of keep moving, but it's not going at quite as fast. And with your thermometer, the important part about this, you want to make sure that it's not touching the bottom of the pan. And so you don't have to use a thermometer, because you can just kind of test it and keep testing it with your spatula to see if it's doing what's called spinning that thread. But a thermometer just takes all the guesswork out of it, so you're not having to worry about what temperature it is or what you're going for. So we want to go to like 240 degrees is what we're looking for. All right. When I looked it up online, like the spinning a thread temperature, like people have ranges from like 230 to 245. When I was doing this on Monday and making this and had an actual thermometer in and playing with it, it was definitely like 240 was kind of the way to go. I didn't think it was quite as thick as it needs to be at 230. So you need it to be that little bit thicker, more syrupy kind of consistency in order to spin that thread. All right, so what I'm talking about with spinning threads is when you put your spatula in and it drips off, what comes off, I don't want to touch it because that's like hot boiling sugar there. What comes off will actually make a thread that's a couple of inches long is what you're looking for. You can see that mine is still just dripping off right now because we're not at temperature. We're only at 220 degrees, so it's taking a little bit to get there. That's my turning it up a little bit more to go just a little faster. We'll see if that works. All right. Gonna go even a little slower on my egg whites because they are right there. Now it's just waiting on sugar, so it'll happen. What ends up happening, the kind of the science behind here, is that if you had just water in here, it's going to boil at 212 degrees, and it's always 212 degrees. It could be boiling for half an hour, and it's still just going to be 212 degrees. But when you start adding in other things like sugars, then you can get to higher temperatures. And the way that you have to get to a higher temperature is to evaporate off the water. I think you can probably see that there's a lot of evaporation going on right here. And so the water is evaporating off, and so the concentration of sugar gets higher, and so then that will increase the temperature with it. So that's the little science lesson that goes along with our baking today. All right, I'm just going to let this set. My egg whites are good, so I'm at stiff peaks with this. So what you're looking for with your egg whites is that they would hold up, so nice and firm. That's what we're looking for with this. So good. And let's see, 222. Woo! So we still have a little bit to go. We're gonna keep going with this. While we are waiting on this to finish, let me talk about the things that we have coming up. So we're going to have Memorial Day cupcakes. So if you're interested, we will have that out on our website tomorrow, so that you'll be able to sign up for kits for that for Memorial Day. That's going to be next Thursday evening. So class is going to be from 6:30 to 8:30 if you're wanting to follow along with the live version of it. But you can always just pick, if that time doesn't work for you, just pick up the kit and you can do the kit and the lesson any other time at your convenience. And so that's the nice thing about the way that we're migrating to the online classes, is that you'll be able to do the class either with us in the live version, or you can follow along at your convenience. Magda put together today, I'm going to be filming the pizza class. That's going to be our very first one that we're going to be adding in as like one of our regular classes. And so I'm filming that tomorrow. And Magda put together our kits. They look really good. So it's a ton of stuff. So you'll get all the things to make the dough. You'll have everything to have the sauce, the cheese, the veggies, the meats. We'll have different options actually online for you to choose from, is kind of what we were talking about. So if you want the vegetarian version, if you want the meat version, or if you want the combo version, we'll have all of that available. All right, I'm at 238. So we're getting close. So now look at this. When I pull this out, do you see that thread there? You see the thread? Yeah, go from the front. There we go. So it's spinning that long thread. That's what we're looking for. All right, done. Off. Be really careful with this, all right? So keep in mind what this is that we have going on. This is hot sugar, and very, very hot sugar. So I don't want to let the cats run underneath my legs during this time. I want to not answer the phone. I want to be paying full attention to what's going on. And Randy, you might want to go from above. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to have this going just on the lowest speed, and I'm going to pour this in very slowly. There are marshmallow recipes that are just like this. It just has a little bit more egg white in it compared to the amount of sugar and the syrup that's in here, and you can make marshmallows. This is also kind of a similar way of making like a meringue, and so that's why I was calling it like a marshmallow meringue topping, which is kind of what the consistency ends up being. All right, so now that I have it in, now I'm just going to increase the speed. There we go. And if I go to touch my bowl right now, this is really hot. I want to wait until this cools off quite a bit. And then I'll be able to spread this out over top of my berries. There we go. So see what I was saying? A KitchenAid mixer or like a hand mixer makes this much, much easier. Trying to do this by hand would be a lot of work. It would just be a lot of work. And this cools off pretty quick. It only takes a couple of minutes for it to cool off. Let me take this out of the way. There we go. I'll put my pie here, have it all ready to go. I don't know if my sisters are online, but they helped me kind of find my grandmother's recipe for this. So it was nice having kind of reminding them of this pie. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to have that pie again." So I might have to make one and take it to my sister. All right, so it's definitely cooled off. I can keep my hands on here, but I can't. It's still pretty warm. So I want to let this go just one more minute, and then I'm going to put it on. While that's going, what I'm going to use is a torch. So you could use like a torch like this, or like the ones that you use for like creme brulee kind of stuff. That would work. And so this one. There we go. So I have a little bit of a flame there. That's exactly what I want. And I can brown it. All right. It has cooled off nicely. What I'm going to want is a spatula. So any kind of spoon or spatula to spread this out. And this is enough for 2 pies. So it's a lot. All right, yay. Sorry, Lynn, no pie for you. When I made this on Monday, Randy had looked at it and he was like, "Oh, that looks good." But then when he ate it, he was like, "Oh, that is really good." So he enjoyed the pie. And so see, I still have a lot of topping. This could easily be enough for 2 of the small ones. I like a lot of the topping on there though, so I'm gonna take advantage that I'm only making 1 pie right now. And it comes together really fast because now, like, I don't have to bake this anymore or anything else into the broiler. If you have a broiler at home, that's good. But if not, then just torch it just a little bit, and then you're ready to go. All right. And I don't take this all the way to the edge. No need. And you can see it it holds up right where it is. You don't have to like have it in a specific area. So now a little bit of fun with the torch. Just to caramelize the sugar. It's kind of like s'mores meets strawberry pie. Yum, that smells so good. And it just kind of sets the sugar on here too. So it makes it a little bit, so it's not as sticky. Just needed to switch hands. These little ones, you have to keep them pressed in the whole time. Turn it around, make sure you don't shortchange anyone from having some of the caramelized part. All right, and there we go. So this pie, you can, if you're eating it like today, I would leave it just 100% at room temperature, and I wouldn't refrigerate it at all. If you're eating it like tomorrow or the next couple of days, then you could put it in the refrigerator, but take it out and let it totally come to room temperature before you're ready to eat it. It's just the marshmallow meringue really comes back together and has a lot more flavor and texture at room temperature as opposed to cold from the refrigerator. Although I think Randy ate a piece cold from the refrigerator this morning, so I'm telling on him. I saw the plate in the sink, so I knew what was on it. All right, so my grandmother's pie. So my grandmother's strawberry pie, and then we're going to bake off the lattice pie and have that ready to go. So guess what? We'll be having some pie for dessert. I hope you guys have pie for dessert too. So super simple pie crust to be able to work with, and then a very easy, very fresh, very, very good summertime kind of pie. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you next week. I don't know what we're doing next week yet, but we'll post something soon and let you know what the live is going to be next week. So we'll do one on Wednesday, and then we're going to on Thursday night. That's when we have the cupcake class, and then probably by next week we're going to start to be publishing our schedule for the classes going into June and the online classes and the things that we're going to do. So our instructors are working hard to get everything together. Next week is going to be lots of taping and lots of things that we're going to be working with and getting everything together for migrating to that. So I want to thank you so much for joining us here. If you want to come into the store, come see us, come say hello. Be sure to duck your head in. Randy and I have kind of set up our office here in the classroom, so we're in the front. So duck your head in and say hello, and would love to see you. So thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your pies or whatever you make for something sweet for dessert, and then we'll see you again soon. All right, take care. Bye.